All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Myo Zarny. I'm a product manager with Juniper Security. I'm here today with my colleagues, Sandeep and Kedar. And our topic today is Juniper Secure Edge, which is our recently launched cloud security service. So we'll go over what the service is about, what the use cases are, and what the architecture looks like. And towards the end, we'll go over a few demos to get a closer look of the service. Okay. All right, what is Juniper Secure Edge? At a high level, it is a cloud delivered security service that is designed to protect users that could be anywhere nowadays, right? So they could be in the office, they could be at home, they could be at a cafe. Doesn't matter. Secure Edge will make sure that the same consistent policies follow them, right? So that these users are able to get not only fast, but also secure access to applications and resources that they want on the internet. Another highlight is that Secure Edge is managed by Security Director Cloud. So that's the same cloud-hosted management console that manages on-prem devices as well. So what you get is really unified visibility and security across environments. There is no need to have multiple consoles or multiple policy sets. This really that's important because this really allows the enterprises to be able to transition to more cloud-oriented architectures much more seamlessly at their own pace, right? So Juniper Secure Edge offers all these next generation firewall and advanced security services. So one thing that I want to highlight here is that these security services are the same features and functionality that are available on the SRX, right? So these on our SRX firewalls, these are the very features that have been proven number one in security efficacy in multiple independent tests, several years running. So essentially what we have done is we've taken these battle-tested capabilities, taken into the cloud, and we're delivering them as a cloud-based, cloud-delivered service. So next, I want to go into what the cloud, the Secure Edge cloud looks like in the overall Juniper Cloud framework. So there are three buckets as I want to look at, right? So the first area is the Juniper Security Director Cloud. And Security Director Cloud is really our management plane, right? So it is the unified management platform that manages both on-prem and cloud services. And as mentioned before, it is leveraging the same unified policy framework so that you are able to take the same consistent policy objects and profiles anywhere. So they could be on-prem, they could be in the cloud, and you're able to achieve a consistent policy set. And that's how we're able to ensure that the same policies are following users wherever they may be. The next bucket that I want to highlight is ATP Cloud. So this is something that my colleague Crystal just went over, right? So ATP Cloud, I want to think of that as the threat control plane, right? So it really operates in two modes, right? So in two directions, should I say. In one direction, from the ATP Cloud, it is actually sending threat intel to data plane services. So Secure Edge is one of them. Other data plane services are regular SRXs that are on-prem or are in IaaS environments. But Secure Edge is one of the recipients, for that threat intel. The second part is in the other direction, right, from data plane to the cloud. So it is able to take in the traffic, interesting traffic from the data plane services and analyze the traffic for any kind of threats, right? For zero-day malware detection, for example. Even when you don't have, sometimes some of the traffic would be encrypted, and we have a feature called Encrypted Traffic Insights, which we will discuss a little bit more in the demo, is able to look at what the traffic could be happening, even though the traffic is encrypted. So again, ATP Cloud in the framework is I think of that as a threat control plane that is advising data plane services anywhere, and it is also taking in the traffic for analysis that could be used for further refinement. Okay, so Secure Edge is our cloud delivered service. So Secure Edge works with both Security Director Cloud. It is managed by Security Director Cloud, and it also works with ATP Cloud. Right, so you can think of Secure Edge as the data plane services that happen to be in the cloud. So next, I want to talk about the main use cases, right? So there are two main use cases. The first use case is the roaming user, right? The remote user who could be anywhere outside the office, and that user is able to access his or her cloud applications, from anywhere, directly going through our Juniper Secure Edge Cloud. There is no need to dial back into data centers or anything like that. And the second use case is, the user is on-prem and they want to access the web and SaaS applications, and Secure Edge is able to, service those use cases as well. So let's dive a little bit deeper into each use case and how each use case can be supported. So the first thing is the roaming user. So the roaming user has a managed device, and from that managed device, you have a PAG file, and based on the PAG file, the user is able to access one of the points of presence, Juniper Secure Edge points of presence, and once you go there, once you get to the POP, the user is going to be authenticated. We're just showing SAML here, but we can also authenticate with LDAP, so that if you want to connect directly to AD, we can do that. But the point here is that every roaming user is going to be authenticated, and if the authentication checks out, then the user is going to be examined for additional policy, and if he is allowed to proceed, then he'll be allowed to, right? So what we're actually providing here is the ability for roaming users to be anywhere, be able to connect to their closest point of presence, and from there they're actually getting authenticated and authorized policies for web and SaaS access. The next use case is for the on-prem user, right? So for the on-prem, what we need to do is from the site, we can set up tunnels. Those tunnels could be IPsec or GRE, and from there, you are able to decide at each site. You can decide what traffic to send it over to. You being the admin, you can decide what traffic that you want to send to POP1 or POP2. Typically, you'll set it up as a primary and secondary, right? So the same flow, right? So the user is there. Now the user basically is saying, I want to go to abc.com or xyz.com, and the traffic is going to be routed to the POP that the admin has directed to. The traffic will be sent to the POP. The POP is going to try to authenticate the user. From there, the same policy sets apply, and according to policy, the user is going to be allowed to or not allowed to. So this is the basic setup. So let's dive into the demos. So we have a few demos planned. So in the first demo, we're just going to go over some of the infrastructure, basic infrastructure setup, right? How to set up a POP, how to set up a site, and how to do authentication, right? Basically the mechanics, so to speak. In the second piece, we will go over the policy management piece. So this is an area that I want to kind of highlight here because we're going to go over not only a firewall policy, but we'll also go through how we can actually add additional security capabilities into the same unified policy framework. And then we'll look at policy deployment. After that, we're also going to look at how Juniper Secure Edge is tightly integrated with the ATP, because this is one of the key differentiators of the service, right? So we're not just providing a general firewall service or a web gateway, but it is one that is tightly integrated with threat. And you get these threat capabilities even with the most fundamental base package. So you're getting that. So this is a key differentiator that we want to highlight. So last but not least, we're also going to look at how Security Director Cloud is able to manage both on-prem and cloud environments. So in the last demo, we're going to show how on-prem SRXs can be managed from the same Security Director Cloud console. So the first demo that I'm going to cover is around service management. It is really, as I said, about the mechanics, right? How we go about doing. So this is the Security Director Cloud. This is the cloud-based console that manages both on-prem and cloud environments. So you can see the SRX is to manage on-prem SRX devices. But here we're actually going to be looking at Secure Edge, which is the cloud-delivered security components. So let's start with service locations. Service locations are really the points of presence or POPs that we have around the globe, right? So here, we're looking at our QA environment. So you can see that there are 3 POPs set up in our environment, and if you want to create a new service location, we can just go through that exercise. Next, we're going to look at sites. These are really the customer branch offices or data centers or offices where we're able to decide, basically configure, what kind of tunneling we're going to be using and where are we going to be connecting to, right? So you can decide whether it is going to be GRE or IPsec. Next, for end user authentication, as I mentioned, we support SAML, right? So we can basically integrate with any identity provider that speaks SAML. So it could be Okta, Azure AD, doesn't matter. Next, we also support LDAP, right? So we can connect directly into LDAP, or as Crystal mentioned before, we can also connect through Juniper Identity Management Services, or JIMS, which is the LDAP collating capability that we have. Last but not least, we also support Hosted DB. Hosted DB is really for small environments and for POC environments, and not for like a large enterprise environments. In large enterprise environments, you will want to support, you want to use either SAML or LDAP. Okay, so next I want to cover policy management. So one key area that I want to highlight here is that with Juniper Secure Edge policy, so one difference from the SRX policy management is that we're actually managing a service-wide policy set. So we're not creating a policy rule set per SRX or anything like that. So we're actually creating a service-wide policy that will be applicable across your environment. And as part of the demo, I'm actually going to go over two policy creation processes. The first one is around how we create a regular firewall policy, but I'll use application ID as one. And second, I want to cover how we are able to attach additional security capabilities using the same policy framework that people are familiar with. So let's go over that. Okay, so we're starting with the policy set. As I was mentioning, this is the policy, the service-wide policy set that we're applying across all the Juniper Secure Edge elements. And we're going to start out with security policy. So let's enter a policy. Now we're going to block Facebook just for illustrative purposes. So for source and destination, we're just going to choose any. For applications, we can actually define specific applications. And this is an area that I want to highlight that, we are not only application aware, but today we are able to recognize down to many of these sub-application levels, right? So today we recognize about 5,000 applications. And even for Facebook, for example, I believe there are like over 70 odd Facebook application signatures that we recognize today. So for this demo, I'm just choosing Facebook chat, as an example. But we're able to go down to that application signature level, and in this particular case, we're just going to say deny, and we're going to enter that. As you can see, the interface exactly the same as what you're used to with the regular SRX platforms. Now let's go a little bit deeper, right? So we're going to create a advanced security policy. Here, we're going to choose any application. And now here, we're going to say permit. By doing permit, now you're able to define or refine your policy much more, right? So you're able to create, say that, I want to do these additional things. So I can enable IPS to see if there are any kind of exploits. I can decide to decrypt, right? And how I want to decrypt it, right? I can, filter. Content filtering is file filter, basically to control what kind of files are being supported or allowed in what direction. We can look at anti-malware for zero-day malware detection. For SecIntel is the threat feed service that we're getting. Am I going to be getting SecIntel updates for this particular rule, right? So you can do all of these things, and we're going to go a little bit deeper, later in the demo. But here we're just going through the web filtering demo that we can create. So just for the demo purpose, I'm going to deny this particular web URL category. Basically, we're doing this on the fly, right? So you could have created your web filtering profiles earlier, but if you haven't, you just want to do a custom, you can do that. So this is just to illustrate that. I hope you can see that you have created a policy using the same policy framework that you're familiar with. You're able to add a lot more security capabilities to that. And this is something that people are already familiar with. And you are able to add not only the regular firewall capabilities, but all the additional security capabilities that Juniper Secure Edge has to offer.
In case I have a hybrid scenario where I still have some traditional SRX firewalls can I then easily take that policy and apply this to traditional SRX?
Yes, excellent question. Yes, you can basically take your SRX policies and convert them into secure edge policies.
And the other way around as well?
So the other way around is something that where it's a roadmap item at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, but the current use case right now is that you have our existing Juniper customers, and they want to add this cloud deliver security capabilities, and we're able to convert these on-prem policy into the cloud. Okay, but one thing to note here is that the policy objects and all of these things, they're the same, right? So an app ID and an app group, is the same, whether it is on-prem or in the cloud, right? So all the objects that you've created, they stay the same. There is no need for you to create another set. So this is the benefit of having a unified policy framework.
You cannot automate it, grab this policy, but I can, let's say you make it for me quite easy to replicate that policy in my traditional SRX just using the same objects, yeah?
Yeah. You can use the same, exactly. So you can use the same objects. So think of like, policy conversion really requires having, a lot of the same capabilities, right? So something that you've done in on-prem with, say, zone-based firewalling, may or may not be applicable in the cloud, right? And vice versa. But the key here is to be able to use the same policy objects and the profiles, right? So that you don't have to create them again and again and again. And that way you are able to ensure that the one address group that you have defined, on-prem is still the same address group in the cloud.
Yeah, sure. 100% with you. It's not the 100% same, but the intent is more or less the same on both use cases. So yeah.
Correct. I mean, there's always going to be conversion that is required because, interfaces are going to be different and all of these things, right? That is actually true regardless, like even without taking cloud, out of the equation, even when we're converting from, one type of SRX to another, right? There's always going to be some conversion required. Not everything is always going to be exactly the same, but the key is for us to be able to leverage the same policy objects. And, we have actually worked hard to make sure that we're able to support that. That way you don't have to, recreate the wheel, right? Reinvent the wheel. All right.
Could walk us through this scenario. So I have offices protected directly by physical SRXs. I have some offices that don't have any Juniper infrastructure in them, and I have the work from home users, and I want to harmonize this policy across that. So the first question is, the policy exists initially in this Office SRX place. What's the process look like to roll it out to the other sites? And then the second question is, after that's done the first time and the constant requests come in to change these policies, what does the update process look like across that?
The first part of your question is you've got the work at home user who is going to be accessing the web, right? In that case,
I'm saying I have a policy on a physical SRX at an office with all these browsing policies, and now I want to impose them on the offices that don't have SRXs and on the work from home users.
So you're basically saying, look, I've already created the policies, on the SRX. Can you take them into Secure Edge and make sure that Secure Edge is able to apply the same set of policies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or coming in from from home or offices without an SRX? Yes, absolutely. This is exactly the use case, right? So you're able to take your existing policies that you have invested time and effort in to create, right? You take them and you're basically able to recreate these policies in Secure Edge, which is cloud delivered. Now, from a traffic flow standpoint, so your home and your on-prem users without an SRX, the traffic is going to be routed directly into Juniper Secure Edge, where we're going to be applying these filtering policies.
And what does that actual conversion process feel like? How many steps are in it? What's, how big a deal is it?
So, from a, policy conversion standpoint, it is really relatively maybe about, 5 steps just to go over, the objects and the policies and, make sure that some of the policy differences are ironed out.
Okay, now I've unified the world, everybody's happy, and I get my constant stream of changes coming in. What does it look like to change them in both places?
So from a pure policy management standpoint, so Security Director Cloud is going to be managing both Secure Edge and the SRXs.
Okay, so I can literally change the policy one place and push it out to the 2 different platforms.
So today we don't have that capability. So we're managing from the same platform, both Secure Edge and the SRX. But the Secure Edge policy base that you're looking at right now is for cloud security policies. Okay,
so I'm just going to 2 different places in the cloud portal and updating the 2 policies.
Right. So today we are not. We don't have a unified policy that is that is going to be managing all the various SRXs with various types of SRX specific policies or appliances. As well as the Secure Edge instances. What we have today and what we're going to be supporting is the SRX. I'm sorry, the Secure Edge policy that is service-wide, and but to manage the SRX specific SRX policies, this is more in along the lines of firewall policy management, right? That is something that the Security Director Cloud can do. But today, those policy rule sets are separate. So next, I think I'm still moving my policy to the top. This is just to show that. Next, I think I want to deploy the policy. And the policy can be deployed right away or can be scheduled to be done at a later time. And we'll come back to how the deployment goes afterwards. Okay. Next, I want to go through how Secure Edge is integrated with ATP, right? So as I said, this is a key differentiator for our service, right? So even with our very basic license level, we get a lot of the threat capabilities built in, right? And this is so we're not only providing regular firewalling or web gateway service, but it is one that is tightly integrated with IATP. And here, I think I want to go over 2 things, right? One is the anti-malware piece. This is where Secure Edge is able to feed into ATP Cloud for anti-malware analysis, basically cloud sandboxing type of capability. And the other is, how we are able to, our Secure Edge is getting threat intelligence from ATP Cloud and able to enforce based on the up-to-date threat info that is coming from ATP. Okay, now we're going to go into security subscriptions. Here you can actually define your IPS and web filtering and content filtering security profiles, here, right? And those profiles can be used by the policy set afterwards. But you can also create them, on the fly, as we showed in our previous one, right? So with anti-malware, we can create anti-malware profiles. This is basically to define, the kind of traffic that we want to send it over to the cloud for analysis, right? That's in the data plane to cloud direction. And ATP cloud to the data plane, the secure edge direction is called SecIntel. Okay, SecIntel profiles. And here we're going to go through the, with the SecIntel, there are a bunch of thread feeds that we're getting, right? So you can actually, you're getting command and control domains and IPs that we should be taking action on. We're also able to decide, set up, how DNS filtering, to do, right? How it is going to be done. So we'll go into how DNS sinkholing can be set up. So next. So as you can see here, we're creating or editing a DNS profile here. And as you can see here, what global DNS is the feed that the secure edge is subscribing to. And based on the what we're getting from a global DNS feed, we're able to decide whether to drop the packet, which in case is going to be DNS filtering, or we can actually set it up as a sinkhole. So we can basically respond with a dummy address, basically a sinkhole address that the end clients are going to be sent to. By setting up sinkholing, as you know, we're able to determine which particular clients have been infected. Right, so we're able to set up both sinkholing and filtering. And I should mention that sinkholing and filtering are included as part of our base package, right? So all of these things are, SecIntel is something that you get out of the box. There is no additional licensing requirement, from that standpoint. So next, let's take a look at how we can actually override the SecIntel behavior, right? So these SecIntel feeds are set up, right? So you can see that you have the thread feeds. We're also subscribing to a number of third-party thread feeds, right? And if we want to override or adjust, how SecIntel cloud is going to be behaving. For example, I want to add an additional URL that I just know that it is not good, right? I can do that. I can basically go ahead and create these specific capabilities. So you can do that with blog lists. So in this particular case, I've just said that test.org and xyz.com are going to be blocked. But on the other side, I can also say that, I want to allow certain things to be put in, right? So I can do that, right? So I can do a custom allow list. And so another thing is that, we also provide the ETI. ETI stands for Encrypted Traffic Insights. This is our Juniper secret sauce, right? The ability to take a look at even the encrypted traffic without having to decrypt the traffic and be able to determine whether or not, this is actually going to a malicious site. And last but not least, we're looking at how we're able to whitelist certain domains. So yeah, so this is kind of a whirlwind of how we're able to integrate with ATP, right? So we're not just providing a firewalling service, but it is a full-blown threat capability, threat-aware service that is tightly integrated with ATP. Yeah, last but not least, did the policy deploy? Yes, it did. I believe the next one is for us to look at how Security Director Cloud is able to manage on-prem devices. And for that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Sandeep.
I am Sandeep, part of the technical marketing team in Juniper. So what we're going to see is the capability of Security Director Cloud, wherein we will be able to see that what Security Director Cloud can do by managing both physical SRX, which is on premises, and also the virtual SRX, which is spawned in multiple clouds. We can have all those different SRX, physical and virtual, in one single policy, and then we will be able to enforce consistent policy across your deployment. So in this case, I'm going to take an example here, which is in Denver, DC, which is a physical data center. I'm having an SRX 550, and I'm having a VSRX, which is in AWS. Both are managed in Security Director Cloud. And what we are going to see is how we can have a consistent policy across both of these devices. You can see that I'm having a policy already here. Again, a fictional name like organization policy, which is having 5 rules. Both devices are actually part of that single policy. Which that means is anything I do with that specific policy, it is going to enforce the policies and the rules on both of that physical and virtual SRX. Just quick look at the rule structure. I'm having a bunch of policies, which is actually allowing some applications and denying some other application. From layer 4 to layer 7 and advanced security like IPS and UTM are also enabled over there. So we'll be able to have a consistent policy across all these virtual and physical SRX. The moment I click on deploy, it is going to enforce this policy basically on all the firewalls that are part of that specific firewall policy. In this case, we are going to have it as part of the physical and virtual SRX. So we can have a consistent policy irrespective of where your deployment is, whether it is on a physical SRX, which is at a physical place, or you are having a multi-cloud deployment. Both can be covered in one single policy to have a consistent policy.
Do you have something like a stack policy concept? So I'm looking for example, I have some basic policies I want to apply to all of my firewalls, but I have some portions that are just a subset of my firewalls. Making something up, I have 5 firewalls in the US. They become a different policy than the 5 firewalls that are in Europe, but they have a shared policy set that I want to apply to both of these groups.
Absolutely. So what we can actually do is those set of policies or those set of firewalls which you told in US or whichever firewalls you want the basic firewalling, you can just group it into one, and then whatever you add to that specific policy, right? As you see here, we'll be having only those specific, layer 4 or basic firewalling, whatever you want to do in that. And supposedly, if you want to have an advanced security for other bunch of firewalls which is grouped in, you can group that the similar way what we have shown here, and then have advanced security to those set of firewalls as well. Yes.